There's a place for all our heroes. It's called the Hall of Fame. The greats of sports are honored here for the way they played the game. As we count their contributions, we feel so very proud. We won't forget how much they gave and how they pleased the crowd. When the glory years are over and playing days are past, we'll preserve those memories as long as sports fans last. Our torch is lit forever and brightly burns the flame, a tribute to our legends who are in our Hall of
From the Nicholas J. Pirro Convention Center at On Center in Syracuse, New York, Blue Rock Energy proudly presents the 2016 Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony on Time Warner Cable Sports Channel. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our magnificent celebration. Tonight, we induct 8 accomplished individuals into our prestigious Hall of Fame. The greater Syracuse area carries a rich tradition of excellence in sports. Tonight's honorees have brought such distinction to their community, their individual sports, and to themselves that saluting them as we are tonight is not only appropriate, it is absolutely necessary. Tonight, because of them, the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame becomes even greater. Please allow me to introduce our distinguished head table. Beginning on my far left, from the world of boxing, Ed Brophy. From basketball and athletic administration, Buddy Wiklinski. From football and basketball, Billy McBride. From the game of lacrosse, Matt Palem. And to my far right, from basketball, Bob Hayes. From football, Ray Seals. From football, baseball, and athletic administration, Bob Campisi. From the game of golf, Susie Whaley. And the president of the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame, Joe Russo. Ladies and gentlemen, our distinguished head table. Now, to welcome you to tonight's celebration, it is my pleasure to introduce Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame President Joe Russo.
Thank you, Doug. Good evening, everyone. What an incredible turnout. This is the largest crowd in the history of the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame. We have over 800 in attendance tonight. My fellow board members and I greatly appreciate this tremendous show of support to celebrate the 30th anniversary of this organization. And most of all, what a tribute to the class of 2016. They will be joining 224 past inductees as members of the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame. I would like to strongly urge everyone here tonight, along with your family and friends, including the Syracuse community, to visit our new website designed by Susan Dutch of Dutch Marketing. It is extremely informative, and please go to the donation link. It is the lifeline of a nonprofit organization like ourselves. You are able to make a donation to the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame directly, or in the name of a past inductee or a team of honor. Your generosity will allow our organization to find a permanent home in the future to display our vast number of memorabilia. Our goal is to find a location in the downtown corridor, which has become such a vibrant part of our community. I would like to thank our presenting sponsor, Blue Rock Energy, and its CEO and owner, Phil Van Horn, who was instrumental in making this event such an incredible success. Also, Time Warner Sports and Mike Cleland for televising this event for the past 15 consecutive years. Bill Motto of Motto LaGuardia Events for coordinating this record-setting dinner. Also, the fine people here at the On Center for providing this wonderful dinner and great service. I would like to thank all the past inductees who have joined us tonight. I would be remiss if I did not extend a special thanks to our Hall of Fame Master of Ceremonies, Doug Logan, who brings his unparalleled skill set to the podium each year. A sincere thank you to my fellow board members for their support and hard work in making tonight's event the most successful in the history of the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame. Again, I would like to thank all of you for joining us tonight. Enjoy this ceremony of the class of 2016, and I hope to see you all here again next year. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe. Well, now it's time to begin our induction ceremony. Each inductee will be introduced by videotape. We will then hear from each honoree. Our first inductee, Ed Brophy.
From the very beginning at Canastota Memorial Hospital, Ed Brophy displayed a love for the sweet science. Or so the story goes.
I was looking for his older brother, and I was told that his older brother might be at the hospital because Ed had been born. I believe Ed's mom held the baby, held Ed up to the window so we could see him. He probably was making a fist.
Was he signaling a fistic future? In the neighborhood, boxing would come to him.
A good day was coming home at night without a black eye or a bloody nose. And Eddie was, he was a peacemaker.
I could tell from some of the things he was doing as an adolescent that he was coming out of his shell. He would call professional boxers on the phone, and he struck up a relationship with them. It looked like Ed was going to maybe pursue a career in boxing.
And why not? Brophy was born in 1956, the year Carmen Basilio lost and regained his world welterweight crown in bouts with Johnny Saxton. On Main Street, Brophy lived just a couple blocks down from where Basilio was born. And as a teenager, his next-door neighbor was former welterweight king Billy Backus, Basilio's nephew and Brophy's godfather.
Main Street is the real birthplace of the Boxing Hall of Fame.
As a youngster, Ed worked odd jobs, saving money to buy Ring magazine and various boxing books. A big moment was sitting ringside at the War Memorial, watching Backus dethrone heavily favored Jose Napoles. Ed boxed as an amateur, was a trainer, manager, promoter, historian, and eventually an innovator. Literally, Ed Brophy created the Boxing Hall of Fame.
Because he was a young man. And he had all the ambition in the world.
Initially, funds were sought to erect statues of Basilio and Bacchus, Canastota's favorite sons. Then, Ed and others in the community developed a concept for a Hall of Fame in their town. The project was launched by $1,000 contributions from area residents.
He knew how to get the best out of the people that he became acquainted with. I became an advisor to Ed, an unofficial advisor to Ed. We were always impressed with Ed's determination. Ed would really never take no for an answer.
Ed pushed, and his brainchild received New York State grants for $50,000, allowing for a feasibility study and preliminary work. Ed, named executive director for the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 1984, secured the property. The Hall of Fame opened its doors in 1989.
He's a stickler for detail. The grounds are immaculate. I would argue that exit 34 on the thruway is probably the best in the thruway system.
The first class of Hall of Fame inductees came in 1990. The annual induction weekend is highlighted by Sunday's Parade of Champions and induction ceremony.
And he has been able to get a group of people from Canastota to volunteer their time. Many of these people take their vacations for that weekend.
In April, Ed was enshrined in the New York State Boxing Hall of Fame for his contributions to the sport.
During his acceptance speech, he spent most of his allotted time talking about the hundreds of volunteers, the small staff that he works with, the community, the sponsors. Ed is, he's an ambassador for the sport of boxing.
His life has been boxing, but he also decided to start running.
His first race was going to be a marathon. So we warned him about the conditioning, and he trained and trained, and for weeks and weeks and weeks you'd see Ed Brophy running around Canastota. And it was the first and last race he ever ran, because weeks and weeks after that you saw Eddie limping around Canastota because he had done such damage to his knees. But that was Ed. Ed always went in 100%, gave it 100%, and he paid for it.
I think everybody knows that without Carmen Basilio and his nephew Billy Bacchus, there wouldn't have been a Hall of Fame in upstate New York. But I got to say that without Eddie Brophy, I don't know if there would have been a Boxing Hall of Fame.
And so tonight, Ed Brophy enters the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame, class of 2016.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ed Brophy.
Thank you, Doug. Canastota, long history, bare knuckle boxing, high school boxing teams, Carmen Basilio, Billy Bacchus, welterweight contender Dickie DeVranica in the 60s, and longtime promoter Tony Graziano over 50 years. I was lucky to be born and raised in Canastota. Doug mentioned to us to keep our speeches within 3 to 5 minutes, so Doug, I'll do my best to finish before the bell rings. Thanks to the Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame, this is truly an honor for me, and congratulations to the new class of inductees, the class of 2016. 30 years ago, Carmen Basilio was elected into the Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame on the very first dinner night in 1986. So this award to me has a special place in my heart. And I am so fortunate tonight to recognize somebody in the crowd, Carmen Basilio's wife, Josie Basilio. Josie's always been in our corner like Carmen was always there. Every event, we love you, Josie. And Carmen's in our hearts and spirits. I would like to recognize my family. My mother and father passed away, but their spirit is still with me. My father, Dick Brophy, taught me the importance of hard work. My mother, Jenny Brophy, taught me about faith. The winning combination, I use it each and every day. I'd like to introduce my brother Mike, my brother Rich, my sister Grace, her husband Scott, my girlfriend Charlene, also my nephews, nieces, and cousins. Some live out of state, some live nearby, and some are able to make it tonight, and I'd love to have them stand. For Canastota, it's always been an honor to pay tribute to the sport of boxing. Some of the greatest names in sports history have been of boxing champions. Just think of the names: Muhammad Ali, Floyd Patterson, Joe Frazier, George Foreman, Larry Holmes, Roberto Duran, Marvis Marvin Hagler, Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis, Oscar De La Hoya, and the list goes on and on. They've all been enshrined in the Boxing Hall of Fame and attended their induction weekends. And they return year after year, calling Canastota their second hometown. The success of the Boxing Hall of Fame has truly been a team effort by so many people. The board of directors, led by President Don Ackerman, the museum staff, and like Carmen, they're dedicated and work hard. The Hall of Fame weekend cheer people and hundreds of volunteers. Many have volunteered for 20 years. The many Canastota businesses and community organizations, the mayors of Canastota, past and present, along with town supervisors and their boards. I'd like to introduce to you tonight and recognize Canastota's mayor that's with us, Carla Deshaw. Also, Deputy Canastota Mayor Scott Rapizzotti. The list continues: the Canastota Police Department, Fire Department, Greater Atlantic Ambulance, and all the various agencies that work along with the Hall of Fame. I'd like to recognize Canastota Police Chief that is with us, Jim Zolfi. New York State Assemblyman Bill McGee, Senator Dave Valesky, and Senator John DeFrancisco have always worked our corner, Central New York, statewide, and we really appreciate their support. Thanks to everyone who has made it happen. You are truly the champions of the organization. I am accepting this honor with all of you. And in memory of the greatest, Muhammad Ali, let's keep the magic alive in Canastota and continue to float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ed. Congratulations. We're off and running. The 30th Annual Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremonies will continue on Time Warner Cable Sports. Welcome back as Blue Rock Energy proudly presents the 2016 Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony on Time Warner Cable Sports Channel. Our second inductee for 2016, Ray Seals.
Ray Seals beat the odds. He's among the very few bypassing college en route to a successful career in the National Football League. It was not as simple as Henniger High School to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Ray cooked at Taco Bell and worked security in Florida. He was a bouncer here at Sutter's and a doorman at the Hotel Syracuse. The physical ability was there, so too the desire. But without college ball, Ray needed someone to provide an opportunity.
And I met him at church. I'm one of 14 kids, and I was just trying to be like a big brother to him. Once he got to be, I would say like in 10th grade, let's just say, he was dominating high school football, okay? And like I said, he just kept growing. When he hit, he exploded through the person.
Ray would be down to the park sometime, little fat little kid. You know, I always thought that there was a potential for him to play at that level. he was just a beast. I mean, he was just a man amongst boys at the high school level.
I definitely first met him when we had that, when we played Henniker High School at West Genesee. It was our home game, and it was both of our senior years. When he played on defense, he was middle linebacker, and he covered the field sideline to sideline like no one I've ever seen. Yeah, he definitely got the best of me that night.
High school was 4 years in the rearview mirror when Ray ran into Joe Riccardi, a high school teacher who knew him. Riccardi had played for Bear Bryant at Alabama, and on his advice, locals Todd Richardson and Paul Tripoli worked out fine at Tuscaloosa. Ray had been in Florida with his mother.
So he comes back, and then right there it was all business. It would have been his senior year in college. I was in the post office at that time, and I asked the postmaster to give me a 4-month leave. You're going to play for Tampa Bay, a tryout. It's a one-in-a-lifetime thing. You got to make it. We train every darn day, and because you don't want to look back 5-10 years down the road and say, I never tried.
When the Tide's Ray Perkins became coach at Tampa Bay, Riccardi left a phone message that he had a player for him. NFL teams were uninterested, but Perkins valued Riccardi's word and sent Ray a plane ticket. You could say the rest is history. From hotel doorman and semi-pro champion in the Empire Football League Syracuse Express to National Football League defensive end. Ray spent 1989 to 97 with the Bucks, Pittsburgh Steelers, and Carolina Panthers. A 6'3", 300-pounder, he recorded 29 sacks among 133 tackles from 92 to 95 with the Bucks and Steelers. In 95, he started all 16 games and was a UPI second-team all-conference pick. He started Super Bowl 30 for the Steelers and sacked the Cowboys' Troy Aikman.
You know, Mr. Seals was on the board, Ray's dad, and so of course with Ray being at that time playing with the Steelers, he, you know, we had a chance to talk, and so there were some things that Ray wanted to do back here in the community, and this was a great vehicle for him to do that with.
He's a Florida resident, but continues his financial loyalty to this city's South Side. Son of retired Syracuse policeman Tommy Seals, Ray became a passionate anti-crime advocate as a result of his cousin's death. Johnny Gamage was driving Ray's Jaguar when stopped and killed by suffocation by Pittsburgh area police. Ray supports Toys for Tots in honor of Gamage and received the NFL's E for Effort Charity Award. Fowler football coach Natoli, whose father was also a policeman, reunited with Ray.
I had the opportunity to be able to hire him as a football coach of mine. And in 2009, when he was a defensive coordinator, we opened up with Janesville DeWitt, and we were a TV game in the Dome. And we happened to win that game 6-3. He was great with the kids. He's a great teacher, great leader. He was a great asset to my football program.
When his cousin Johnny was killed in Pittsburgh in '95, and it was a trying time at that point for him and the family. And just the way Ray handled it, personally, and then amongst the family, then amongst the team, just goes to say a lot about the type of person that he is.
And the type of person he is today. A semi-pro football Hall of Fame inductee in 1992, Ray Seals now becomes a member of the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame, class of 2016.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ray Seals.
How's everybody doing? It's good to be home. This is a little different for me, but I'm ready to go. So first of all, I want to give thanks to the man up above for giving me the opportunity and the journey in my life that I took. And I want to give special thanks to my mother, who really hung in there with me from football to church, both of them, on both ends. And when I stepped out of line, And I'll never forget one time she was whooping me with a belt, and I laughed at her. She picked up a broom, broke it on my arm, and I've been an angel ever since. And I really have to give a special thanks to my dad. What a role model in my life. 30 years as a police officer, city councilman. Never forget going down to the police department. They used to have the basketball court inside the PBS, and I would sit under the goal and watch him, and he would come dribbling down to the top of the key. He would pull up, take his shot, and he would scream out, "Too late!" And I would get so excited, you know, and I think it played a major role in what happened with me in terms of moving on with my career and having such a great belief system. A lot of people really don't know my story, you know, because it happened so fast. It went from me being in Florida and moving back up here and playing 1 year with semi-pro, and then next thing I know, I'm in the NFL the following year. But a lot of that had to do with the way I am as a person, the way my parents raised me, belief, trust. Matter of fact, let me have my dad stand up real quick. I want everybody. And also, it's kind of funny to me because this is important. Kids need to know that it takes a village. I think that's what we're lacking now. Because back in those days, you had your parents, then you had your parents, you know, cousins, and you could get a whooping by anybody. I mean, you know, and it was, if you was wrong, you were wrong. And I think that's what's lacking today. So what's pretty interesting is the village, I feel like, is important in success. Like I have Julius Brown here. Stand up, Julius. This is a kid that we used to play the electric football men as a child, back when I was 8, 9, 10 years old. Then I have Tony Wade, the one you seen on the video. Stand up, Tony. He's a postman, and a lot of times he would come get me in the middle of the winter, and we would go out and play football in the snow, you know, no equipment on, just banging people up, and I appreciate that, Tony, very much. And I also walk this postal route. I hope I don't get him in trouble. I walk this route to get in shape a lot of times over the years. Okay. Then I also have Mark Hall, who came later. Stand up, Mark, and Carla. They were from the Kirk Park organization, the youth football, which I joined with them and partnered up and brought busloads of kids down to Pittsburgh for games, kids that would probably never have ever seen an NFL game. We would get together, me and Mr. Rooney, and bring kids down and just try to do the right thing and help the kids out. Let me see. Then I have Ms. Breland, who was there in the beginning, that I used to go and ask her for a cup of sugar upstairs. Ms. Breland, will you stand up, please? This is the village, and I think that if, hopefully when this videotape plays over and over, that the kids will see and some of the parents will see that you got to get more people involved. You can't just be the parent no more. It's got to be the aunt, the uncle, the teacher. Everybody got to be involved, because I could go down the list. Wait a minute, I can't forget about my famous table, the Henniger Black Knights table. Stand up, Mr. Acey. Stand up, Mr. Acey. Because I got... I want to give Mr. Acey a thank you, because I think, like, your success is something that starts all the way from when you're young and you grow old. And Mr. Acey, one day I was at Roosevelt High School running around the track, and I heard the coach go, "Hey, you, come here." And I went over to the fence, and hey, I've been in the black and gold ever since. Henniger Black Knights. And when I played with the Black Knights, I had visions of being with the Steelers because we were black and gold. And eventually it worked out. Also, we have Casulo, Coach Casulo. Stand up, Coach Casulo. Coach Casulo was a great coach. He was the kind of coach that wanted to put me in all type of positions. Even though I was a big lineman or a tight end, he would have me running the ball, you know, kickoff returns. So I want to thank him for that. And all the other great coaches over there from the Henniger staff that gave me the honor. And I want to let you know, no matter what people say, I'm always a Henniger Black Knight. It don't matter. All right. Well, I'm going to make this short because I don't know how to keep the time limit on this, but I just want to thank everybody. And Syracuse is a great city to me. And I never forgot about Syracuse the whole time I was gone. And most people around here will know that. So thank you. God bless.
Thank you, Ray, and congratulations. Our third inductee, Bob Campisi.
You've heard it before. Big-time players make big-time plays. Surely Bob Campisi had more than his share of opportunities to make the big play in the big game. He played in 4 national championship games in a 2-year period. At Ithaca College, class of 1982, he was all East on the football gridiron and the baseball diamond. Jim Butterfield's IC Bombers won the 1979 Stag Bowl, the Division III national title game. And George Velocenti's 1980 won the baseball crown. One of just 5 athletes to win 2 NCAA titles in the same year, Bob was a 1995 Ithaca College Sports Hall of Fame inductee. Scholastically, he had starred at Henninger High School, class of 78, twice All-City in baseball. His home run at MacArthur Stadium beat Corcoran for the 78 crown, highlighting an All-American season at shortstop. On the gridiron, he was All-Central New York twice, the Black Knights winning 15 of 17 games. Velocenti knew Bob would be playing for Butterfield.
And he was on a football visit, and he had an interest in playing baseball. And back during that time, it was not uncommon to have football-baseball combinations because there wasn't any spring football practice at that time. So they brought a special ingredient to our baseball team. Playing for Jim Butterfield and learning how mentally tough you have to be successful there was always something that I valued greatly.
That toughness stood him in good stead as an all-East safety whose 8 interceptions in 1981 remains an IC record. He was also an all-East outfielder with a .364 career batting average. Mike Miola first saw Bob Campisi, the Pop Warner football player.
He was a hard-nosed kid. He was a baseball, football guy. If you ask him, he'd probably tell you he was a baseball guy, but we all think that he was a football guy.
Tom Acey coached Bob in football at Henninger. He also wanted him to play lacrosse.
When I started the lacrosse program in the early years, I walked up and put a lacrosse stick in front of his face, and I said, you know, I think you'd be a great lacrosse player. And of course, he chose to play baseball.
What may have set Campisi apart from the others was his ability to change positions.
It was his senior year. He was 1.5 years into playing the position of quarterback. And we had a young man behind him who was a good friend of his, Mark Ferranti. And I said, Bobby, we want to change your position. We want to make you a fullback. Now, we were running the wishbone back then, so the fullback position was a real power, aggressive, physical position. And you know, without hesitation, he said, okay, coach. The next game we went out and we played Corcoran in a mud bowl, and he carried the ball 34 times and won 13-0.
I remember, particularly in Bob's junior year, we did not have a shortstop, and quite literally, his physical characteristics were not what we desired at short, but it seemed that the mental capacity, you know, in 1981, obviously, we were back at the World Series. He had a great series.
After college, Campisi played semi-pro football. He was 1982 Empire League Player of the Year. He won a 3rd national championship playing for the '85 Syracuse Express.
There wasn't any question in my mind that if he decided to stay in the profession of athletics, that he would be an outstanding coach. A lot of those issues and problems never got to my desk, and he handled them. So he did a tremendous job. Was one of the best captains we've had.
From 1986 to 2003, Bob coached football at Henninger. His teams, 105 wins, 36 setbacks, and 2 ties, a .741 winning percentage. Captured 8 league, 5 sectional, 4 regional, and 1 state title. New York State Coach of the Year in 1990, when the top-ranked Black Knights won the states. Bob was also All-Central New York Coach of the Year in 1990 and 95. A coach, assistant principal, athletic director at East Syracuse Manoa from 2004 to 2015, 5 of those years serving as offensive coordinator for ESM teams, winning 4 league and sectional crowns. Since 2005, Bob has chaired the Section 3 Football Committee.
As an administrator, he was what you would call a people guy. He he wanted to get to know the kids.
I know he was a successful coach, having followed his career, and a successful administrator, and probably more importantly, a successful parent.
Tonight, Bob Campisi is a member of the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame class of 2016.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bob Campisi.
Thank you, Doug. First of all, I want to thank the committee for inducting me into the Hall of Fame. I am truly humbled and honored. And I'd like to congratulate all the other inductees, especially Ray Seals. My first year, Ray was a senior, and he was my middle linebacker. We were just talking about the greatest hit I've ever seen in high school, and it was on the video today. And not only was he a great football player, but a great human being, as you can see from his speech. You would know that. I want to thank my brother Mike and Joe Gangemi. They believed that I should be in the Hall of Fame. They're the ones that nominated me, and I appreciate what they did. And I also special thanks to Rick Olszewski for believing in my nomination and pushing it through. Before I get into my speech, I want to take this opportunity to dedicate this night to my late parents, Ann and Mickey Campisi, and there's a lot of people in here that know them. They were just great parents to my brother Mike and my brother David. They had high moral values. They taught us great work ethic, work hard in school, and they supported us in whatever we did. And I want to thank them, along with my two brothers, Mike and Dave, for all their support my entire life. And I want to dedicate this night to them. Thank you. I firmly believe that as you grow, the people that influence you the most, there are pieces of those people in you as you grow. And there aren't two bigger pieces in my life than my parents on every day basis. I also want to thank the three gentlemen that spoke on the video. George Valiceni, thank you, George. I couldn't ask for a greater role model. A guy taught me a lot about baseball, but also taught me a lot about life that I use today. Also Tom Acey, my mentor, my high school coach. I coached with Tom. And Mike Miola, we played Pop Warner. We coached at Henniger. Now we're coaching at CNS. And I just thank him for his friendship and all that he's done. If there's three words I use to describe my life, especially in athletics, it's luck, timing, and skill. And certainly not necessarily my skill, but the skill of the people around me. We grew up in Eastwood. And we all got on our bikes and we drove to Cummings Field every day. And those 3 or 4 tables over there, don't go to Eastwood tonight because I think everybody's here, so hopefully that the cops are out and about. I don't want to talk individually because I don't want to miss anybody, but thank you guys for all that we did and the sports and the competitiveness we had going to Nichols Field or Cummings Field every day. And we'd go till 4 o'clock and then we played Little League and then we'd go to Pop Warner practice. And that's where we started to learn how to win. We won 10 titles in my Eastwood Little League and Pop Warner days. Then I was on to Henniger for football and baseball. Now, how lucky was I for my 4 high school football coaches? Tom Acey, Bob Casulo, Joe Casamento, Dale Drypolcher. Who could ask for 4 better role models than that? Are you kidding me? Tom Acey, a great leader, great motivator, really cared about kids and knew how to develop young kids into great young men. Bob Casulo, who was also my baseball coach, so I was with Bob for 7 years and for 7 seasons. And Bob, he taught you how to play hard, taught you how to have thick skin when you had to get ready for life, and he also taught you how to win. And Bob, I appreciate that. Joe Casamento was a technician and a motivator. Everybody that knows Joe, he's got the gift of gab, and he would really get us emotionally ready for whatever we had to do. And Dale Drypolcher, he kept things light. He kept everybody on task. He made sure the other 3 guys didn't kill us. And now he's out there. You see him every week, either talking about lacrosse or football for Time Warner. Thank you guys. Can't thank you enough. It's not by accident that we won 2 titles in each sport. You know, I had guys like Mark Ferranti, who will be the head coach at Villanova, Mike Miola, who I grew up with, Vito Toya, who coaches at CBA, Joe Cariotti, who we played baseball with, Mike Jafrida, who we played baseball and football together. There's just a bunch of people that really added to all the things that we did growing up. Then it was on to Ithaca College, where I played football and baseball. That's where I met my roommate for 4 years, Kevin Didio. Kevin, we started off as 18-year-old scared kids, and we walked out of there 20-year-old men, 22-year-old men. And I want to thank you for the support that you still give me to today. Your friendship and the support is greatly appreciated. At Ithaca, I played for 2 legendary coaches, Jim Butterfield and George Valiceni. Again, luck, timing, and skill. We had so many skilled kids around us. George Valiceni and his staff of Frank Fazio and Tom Ford were not only great coaches, but again, great people, molder of young men into ready for their lives. The unbelievable success I had at Ithaca. We won 2 national championships in one school year, and that was with Doug DeCard, John Nicolo, John Bertino, and Freddie Yapel. We have a bond forever. Also, Dougie and I played in 4 national championships in 2 years. Unfortunately, my junior year we lost in both, but we played in 4 national championships. Everybody said, were you going to go back to Henniger and be a coach? Was that your goal? Actually, my goal was to go coach college football. I was all set to go to American International College. I had a grad assistantship, and at the last minute, there was 2 grad assistantships. They cut one of them, so the coach called me the day before I was to leave, and he said, I'm sorry I cut it. I gave the job to my nephew, but I'm sending you a contract. If you want to come the next year, come coach college football. So I had to figure out what I wanted to do for that year. So I stayed on delivering lunches for the Syracuse City School District, and I played softball, I played semi-pro football, and I coached football and baseball at Bishop Ludden for a year. Try to figure it out. So luck, timing, and skill. In January, I meet my wife. I start dating my wife. And all good coaches need a good woman that supports you. And my wife has always supported me, and I can't ask anything else for a person like that to spend the rest of my life with. And I want to thank her. I know. Then, as luck would have it, Bob Casulo leaves for his great career all the way up to the NFL, and the job opened up at Henniger High School. So I was able to get the job at Henniger High School, and I ended up coaching there with a bunch of great coaches, Paul Seeley, Mike Miola, Dave Klein, Ari Lieberman, who's now the AD at Liverpool. Dave Klein was the head coach at Henniger and now is having great success at CNS, and I am coaching with him now at CNS. Also, all the people from East Syracuse. I was able to be the offensive coordinator, coach with people like Kevin DePard, Mark Powell, Mike Eschbacher, and Jimmy Kilpatrick. And now I'm back at CNS with Klein and Miola and a bunch of other coaches. Lastly, God blessed me with 2 amazing children. I am very grateful that they took after me to play college athletics. My daughter started at attack for SUNY Cortland, played in 3 consecutive Final Fours, and my son started at St. John Fisher, played in 3 football bowl games, and played in 3 NCAA games as a starting receiver. So for all the people I grew up in Eastwood, all the people I played at Henniger, all the people I played at Ithaca College, all the coaches that coached me, all the coaches I coached with, and all the players, this induction is for them. Thank you very much. I know you were calling me. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Bob Campisi. And the 30th Annual Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremonies will continue on Time Warner Cable Sports Channel. Welcome back as Blue Rock Energy presents the 2016 Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony on Time Warner Cable Sports Channel. 10 years ago, the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame added a new feature to our event. with the special recognition of a Team of Honor. Tonight, we honor the 1985 cross-country team from Onondaga Central.
No, it just did not seem possible at the time. And looking back 31 years, one still wonders, how did Onondaga do it? This was a small band of brothers, an undermanned cross-country team of 8, including a 7th grader, from the smallest area in the state and coming off consecutive defeats. One could say they shouldn't even have been running at Long Island's Sunken Meadow State Park on that November 16th day that tasted of autumn and winter. Losers in sectionals and intersectionals to Beaver River, who opted out of the Federation meet, Onondaga Central had reason to doubt its chances. Then again, OCS also had reason to believe it could compete.
At least for the last 3 years that we were in high school, we were very successful defeating the bigger teams in the county and in the section.
We had a team finish second a couple years before with some of the great runners we'd had in school.
And who was the architect of this team that made New York State Scholastic cross-country history? Bill Donnelly was a 44-year-old social studies teacher who double majored in American and world history. Just months before, he had lost his 40-year-old wife, Carol, to a sudden heart attack. Donnelly's runners served as pallbearers. His team came from an enrollment of 233, bottom rung of the Class C ladder, and the smallest school in the Federation meet. Onondaga runners were not concerned with finishing first individually.
We always started right in the back. We never looked at times.
Only team victories mattered.
Most of us grew up together. When we joined, the foundation for the program had already been laid.
Donnelly eschewed the team school nickname of Tigers and called his team the Tortoises because progression through the pack was the team's philosophy. OCS runners did not rush to the front, but had plenty left at the finish, having logged the miles week after week after week.
We trained over 100 miles a week.
Donnelly was both a believer in his kids and a demanding coach.
One time when we didn't race as well as Coach wanted us to, we had to do the Cardiff Giant Run. And what that meant was, on the way home from the Invitational, Coach stopped the bus and asked the bus driver to let the varsity boys off the bus so that we could run back to campus. That was a 7-mile run that we had to do after our meet.
Lafredo said race day was always fun day.
Not because we were running a race, but because we used to get to the course, have to run the course, which was 3 miles, race the course, which was 3 miles, then cool down on the course, which was 3 miles, and then before every school left, our coach would make us do strides and sprints in front of all the buses until the last bus left. So we would get in at least 12 miles a day.
Seem a bit harsh?
He pushed everybody really hard.
I believe what made him so good as a coach was his ability to take the introverted kid that sat in the back of the classroom and turn him into a state champion.
OCS had not looked like state championship material in sectionals and intersectionals, uncharacteristically moving to the front early and losing.
We were heartbroken. We weren't sure we were going to be able to do anything, and at the last minute, we decided, unfunded by the school, to go to the Federation meet down in New York.
The big school Hares bussed to the meet and stayed in a hotel. So the Tortoises traveled by car and stayed at the home of Lafredo's grandfather, sleeping on couches, floors, wherever. But in the biggest race of their lives, Kevin Van Boden's third-place finish paced 3 OCS runners in the top 25. The Tortoises had put Tiny Nedrow onto the pages of the New York Times.
It was the stuff that Disney movies were made of.
Tonight, we recognize Tom Boughton, Dave Boughton, Bobby Crump, Vinnie Lafredo, Bruce Ryan, Matt Stanton, Kevin Van Boden, and Patrick Van Boden, the 1985 Onondaga Central High School Boys Cross Country Team, this year's Team of Honor.
Accepting this recognition on behalf of the 1985 cross-country team from Onondaga Central, please welcome team member Vince Lafredo.
You guys can run faster than that. It is truly an honor to be here tonight. I'd like to introduce some people that are really special to us. Our families who have joined us today, the Van Boden family, especially Mrs. Van Boden, thank you for joining us tonight. The Crump family, again, especially Mrs. Crump, do you mind standing up? Nice. Thank you for joining us tonight. My family, my wife and kids who are here tonight, all the way from Kansas City, I'd like to thank them. And those families that couldn't join us tonight, the Boughton family, the Stanton family, and the Ryan family. Appreciate them and wish they could be here tonight. This weekend at Onondaga is our homecoming weekend. And I'd like to thank the administrators who made this weekend such a special weekend for our team. Coach Andy Doloff, if you mind standing up. Deb Eichholz, Administrator. Athletic Director Jason Zarni, please stand. Assistant Principal John Miller. Principal Tim Mumford. And Superintendent Rob Price. I really want to thank these folks. They did an amazing job this weekend acknowledging this team after 31 years. Something that had not been there in these past 30 years was a banner acknowledging this team, and these folks went out and hung the greatest banner we've ever seen. Had all of our names on it, even had the induction of this team today on it. So thanks again, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, for all that. We couldn't ask for a better weekend to be here, to come back out of town from Atlanta and from Dallas and from Kansas City to join you here. It really reminded us of all those days that we would run, and run through the hills of Onondaga, Lafayette, Nedrow, Neverino, Atisco. Coach used to give us 50 cents and say, I need stamps. That meant we had to run about 12 miles to Atisco to a small little outpost post office and get stamps for him and then run back. Our school isn't the big school. It's not the big glitzy schools that you see around in the Syracuse area. We're tucked away in the apple orchards and farms of South Onondaga. And for such a small school, we've done a lot of great things. When you consider we have professional football players like Mike Hart, Latavius Murray, news anchor of the most prestigious nightly news, ABC News, David Muir. These are just a few of the folks that have graduated from our tiny little school in South Onondaga, something that we are very proud of. And in this day, when you hear of Onondaga, you think a lot about the powerhouse football teams that those gentlemen have been part of. But 30 years ago was a little different. From 1972, and a little bit earlier, early 70s, until 1987, these folks are part of a group of teams that won 88 straight dual meets. It's part of a dynasty. And the effort that all these folks put in, we won 6 state championships. We had 3 All-American teams. We had 2 individual All-Americans. And a lot of people ask us all the time, how did we do it? We did it through a lot of dedication. As we mentioned before, all the running and effort that we gave the determination that we never gave up. We always believed in ourselves, always being outmanned and outnumbered by the other teams. We put forth the effort to make sure that we could compete with anybody. And I can remember the coaches sitting around telling teams, stay with Onondaga, go with Onondaga. And the hard part for the other teams is they didn't realize we ran as a pack, as they talked about. 7 guys, you'd think about this, 7 guys running together, talking about the movie they went to the night before, as you're sitting there trying to run a race and try to keep up with them. That's a little hard thing to do. You know, it was part of the psyche that we played in when we did this. Most of all was the bond that we had together, the bond our families had, the bond we had as brothers. We've been there for each other through the good times and the bads, and been best men in each other's weddings. It's a lifelong bond. We can pick up the phone and talk to each other at any given time and know that someone on the other end is going to pick it up. And I will say, you know, that our homecoming weekend brought back a lot of memories. Being that we were the first small school, D school, ever to win that race. We were the first school from Central New York to ever win that race. And that was something that we never thought we could do. And it's something that we're very proud of. And even more proud that we could stand here tonight and be inducted into this great Hall of Fame. So we want to thank you for that. In conclusion, I'd like to thank our Hall of Fame, the board members for acknowledging this team, especially Bill Lamont for his efforts in getting us here, and the Romano Auto Group for being our team sponsor. Ironically, as we celebrate the 30th year of the greatest Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame, we're celebrating our 30th year of being the Federation champions. So in conclusion, I want to thank all of you for being here and acknowledging us today. And lastly, for all you Syracuse fans in the crowd, I'm a former student athlete at Syracuse. I'm now an administrator at the University of Kansas. And I want you all to know that hanging in my office is the 2003 basketball national champion that all those Jayhawks have to come and see every single day. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you so very much. Nicely done. Thank you, Vince, and once again, congratulations to the 1985 cross-country team from Onondaga Central. Our next inductee, Susie Whaley.
Susie Whaley could keep a millinery shop in business by herself. She's worn so many hats. Tour player, club professional, top 50 instructor, television commentator, businesswoman, PGA of America secretary, not to mention wife, mother, and daughter. We are a few decades removed from the time young Susie McGuire was an aspiring skier, but an injury took her from the slopes in Boulder, Colorado to the fairways in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And golf would not only be her game for life, but her 2 daughters have gone on to play collegiate golf as well.
Her parents brought her for a golf lesson, I think it was about 1982. So I think the first thing that I noticed about young Susie was her legs. They were skier's legs because she was a great skier. And her swing was not like any 12 or 13-year-old at that time. It was just very powerful. So that was the first thing. And of course, the always present smile.
There was no girls' golf team at Jamesville DeWitt, so she played 4 years on the boys' team. A University of North Carolina graduate majoring in economics, she considered grad school, but took a shot at pro golf and was a non-exempt player on the LPGA Tour in 1990 and 93. But it was 13 years ago Susie gained national, even international attention by becoming the first woman since Babe Zaharias 58 years earlier to qualify for a PGA Tour event. She was the first woman pro to win the Connecticut PGA sectional title. Yes, it was from the shorter tees, prompting the Whaley rule, requiring all qualifiers play from the same tees.
Susie mulled over whether to play in the 2003 Greater Hartford Open at TPC River Highlands, where, incidentally, husband Bill was and is general manager and director of golf. She knew she couldn't win, but that wasn't the point. She set her par not at 70 and felt she could shoot 75-75. She shot 75-78, and among those she'd bettered was David Duval. Just as she had been for so many tournaments over the years, Mary Ann McGuire was on daughter Susie's bag.
I first heard of her in 1999 when she was teaching at a neighboring club from mine in Hartford, Connecticut. In 2002, she went to work for the area's only female owner-operator of a public golf course as a brand new head professional. She had no operations experience, but she knocked it right down the middle for the owner and the facility.
I'm just a working mom who happens to play pretty good golf on occasion, Susie once said. A three-time winner of the Connecticut Women's Open and former Connecticut Club Pro Champion, she worked for ESPN as an LPGA commentator, was an LPGA Top 50 instructor from 2008 to 2013, and was the 2012 recipient of the prestigious LPGA National Nancy Lopez Achievement Award.
I think that she could be a good teaching golf professional because she was a great student.
Susie has won more awards than time allows. Director of Instruction at Susie Whaley Golf in Cromwell, Connecticut, she's a motivator and innovator. PGA of America CEO Pete Bavacqua witnessed her teaching skills firsthand when his young daughter Samantha took a lesson from Susie.
But I really saw her passion and her ability to teach at all levels when she spent the day with my daughter Samantha, who was probably 8 now, probably 6 at the time, and just the way she embraced Samantha and Sammy just came to life and was at such ease and had such an enjoyable time with Susie that she's been talking about it since.
Having broken ground as the PGA of America's first woman elected to national office, Madam Secretary will become Vice President, and in 2018, Susie will become President of the PGA of America.
You know, Susie knows the game incredibly well at so many different levels. She commands respect, but she doesn't take it for granted.
And relentless hard work. No one can work harder, prepare better, and communicate more clearly than Susie Whaley.
It has been her passion to grow the game of golf that has driven her to this moment.
She encompasses everything you would ever want about this great game of golf.
Unassuming and always smiling, Susie Whaley is now a member of the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame, class of 2016. Ladies and gentlemen, Susie Whaley.
Wow. Now I have to communicate really well. I'm going to try to do that for you. It really is great to be home. I wasn't sure if the pilot landed in the same place, though, since it was 75 today, and it's October, so I was glad that I actually am in Syracuse. I just want to congratulate all the other inductees this evening. A special congratulations to Matt, who we went to the same high school together, and it's really exciting to be a part of the same class with you. I love lacrosse. I went to Chapel Hill and followed it, and just, you amaze me, so congratulations to you as well. And thank you to the entire committee for the Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame. A special thank you, obviously, to Bob Snyder and Bill Motto, who endlessly tried to get a hold of me, and I certainly appreciate that. To our sponsors this evening, thank you for your support for this incredible night that we all get to share. And to all the attendees that are spending your night with us and celebrating somebody that you love that's here. It certainly is an incredible honor to be here, and I hope you know how incredibly humbled I am. I couldn't agree with Ray more. Honors like this aren't for those of us standing here by ourselves, because without you, without a community like Syracuse, New York, like JD, like DeWitt, things that I had opportunities to do wouldn't have happened. And so I accept this for all of you in the room who have been a part of my sports journey. I hope you'll bear with me because I do have a few thank yous that are very specific this evening. But to my husband of 25 years, Bill, a PGA professional who supports me in everything I do, even when he rolls his eyes most often at some of the choices I've decided to make, I want to thank him. And to my incredible children who are talented athletes, but even better kids. I thank them, and certainly to my mom, who you saw in the video. My mom passed away 8 years ago, but I certainly know she's here in spirit. She started me in the game. She helped me grow to love the game of golf and every sport. She was an avid sports fan and would be so honored to be here with me this evening. And of course to my dad too, but for those of you that played golf with my dad, we don't talk about his game very often. To my teachers that are in the room and my guidance counselor in the room, thank you for bearing with me, because most often I was on a ski hill or at a golf course and not in your class. To Chris Wagner and Chuck Hardy and Doug Logan and Bob Snyder for always finding something really nice to say about me and all the articles that you write. It's not always the case across the country, and I so appreciate all of you and the effort you give to the game of golf. To the PGA professionals that are sitting in this room with me this evening, Stan, Steve, Alan, and Richard, I can't thank you enough for your support and for all you do every day to grow the game of golf, just like I do every day. Without you and without your support, I wouldn't be an officer of the PGA of America, and I am greatly indebted to you for that, so thank you. They deserve a round of applause. I'm going to embarrass some people tonight. If Bruce, Bill, Peter, and Greg could please stand up. Don't clap for them yet. So I've never had the chance to say this to them in person, and I'm going to say it to them tonight, but these four men once were boys that I grew up with 40 years ago, who inspired me, who accepted me, who played golf with me on a team that I wasn't supposed to be on, who respected me, and who have always had my back. And because of you, you don't know this, but there are opportunities that I've had during my career. I've always thought of you and how you treated me, and knew I always belonged where I was headed. So for that, I thank you. To the Bruce and my Aunt Pat, who are sitting here dutifully tonight with me as my family from Syracuse, New York, I can't thank you enough for being here and for always supporting me in every bad round of golf, every great round of golf, and every ski hill fall I ever took. So thank you for that. And finally, to my cherished mentor, Joe. Just Joe. Joe is the reason I'm a PGA professional. Joe is the reason I love golf. Joe is the reason I give back to this sport every single day and strive incredibly hard to share the game of golf with anyone that I possibly can. He not only taught me how to swing a club better than I ever thought he could, he taught me that I had nothing in my way. There were no limits, and anything I wanted to do was in my grasp. For that, I will forever be grateful. Thank you, Joe. As I said earlier, I am incredibly honored, and thank you to all that felt I was deserving of this award. For all of you, though, in the room that I know are hoping for a little golf tip, I'm going to say keep your head up and remember to breathe. Thank you.
Susie Whaley. And the 30th Annual Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremonies will continue on Time Warner Cable Sports Channel. As Blue Rock Energy presents the 2016 Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony on Time Warner Cable Sports Channel. Our next inductee, Billy McBride.
Renaissance man. That's Billy McBride, who took the road less traveled from Pioneer Homes to Amherst College. Along the way, he survived being stabbed with a machete, living at times as a homeless teen, yet starring in football and basketball at Central Tech. But there was more to Billy the Kid than a two-sport first-team all-city athlete and YMCA Youth of the Year. The highlight of his high school career was being named recipient of the Ormy Spencer Outstanding Scholastic Athlete Award, named for the late Parochial League star and Hall of Famer. There were times Billy could be seen pedaling his bike 12 miles to work, scraping together money for an apartment when a home life was not an option. A member of Tennessee State's NCAA Division II Final Four basketball team, it was Billy's gridiron play that attracted the San Francisco 49ers, who drafted him. But the Canadian Football League is where he played successfully for 6 seasons. Coach Steve Barato and fellow cornerback Steve Dennis met Billy in Saskatchewan.
And he was a bright ray of sunshine on a very cloudy day. His magnificent personality and bright smile made everyone feel good.
When we first met, we got in a big argument over our 2 schools. I'm from Grambling State University with the great Eddie Robinson, and he's from Tennessee State.
In the CFL, he was a stellar defensive back, wide receiver, punt and kickoff returner, and holder.
He was a remarkably adaptable football player. He played on some teams that weren't very good, but he was marvelous.
Billy had come from nothing and took nothing for granted.
And I could tell immediately that he was going to be a great success because he was so intelligent, so willing to work, and would do almost anything you ask him to do in order to win football games.
In 1983, Billy played in the big one north of the border, the Grey Cup for the British Columbia Lions. He also played for Ottawa, and during his pro career was CFL Defensive Star of the Game on numerous occasions. After hanging up the cleats, he was athletic director at New York's Allen Stevenson School. At Amherst, his comfort zone has gone from the football field and basketball court to art museums and the lecture circuit here and abroad.
Was that he was a great communicator. Never did I think he would be at Amherst College.
I first met Coach McBride in the fall of 2001, I think, on an athletic visit to Amherst College, and quite frankly, what made me feel comfortable going there was the fact that he looked me in the eye and told me he had my back. He's a coach and a man who pays great attention to detail, which I got to see even more up close as I was fortunate enough to assist him throughout a season at Amherst, coaching the wideouts.
He held several assistant football coaching positions at Amherst, and for 15 years was head women's basketball coach. His 2000-2001 team won the New England Conference regular season title. Billy named Conference and Regional Coach of the Year. In 2006, Billy earned his master's from Smith College. These days, he is Amherst's Assistant Athletic Director for Diversity and Inclusion. Billy has become both a published author and sought-after public speaker with Amherst's Mead Art Museum College Collection Guide.
She's a one-of-a-kind, one of the few administrators at Amherst College driving a sports coupe, which he took a little flack for, and now I have one. He's definitely a major influence on me, definitely a father figure.
Dennis credits McBride with being more than a good teammate.
We were roommates, and I was going through a real dark time. One day he kind of got upset because I was so down, and he told me, he said, "Steve, let me say something." He said, "Now, if you can just look up, you can get up." And until this day, that stands out in my mind.
Tonight, we induct a Renaissance man, an athlete, coach, artist, author, and public speaker, Billy McBride, into the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame, class of 2016.
Billy McBride.
Wow, I'm home. So I decided that this was going to do. Can I speak to you from the heart? And I want to take you on a little journey. But that journey begins with a woman that meant so much to me in my young life. She told me two things. You remember too much, and you're blessed. And that's my mother. Could you please stand? Love you. Also with my mother, there's my brother, Robert, Stan, Charles, my beautiful sister, Ruthie, Sean, and last but not least, when I was getting ready to go back to Canada for good, and I was in the New York Jets locker room, and the guy told me, don't quit your day job. I was trying to get 2 pitches, by the way, CFL, NFL, not a bad deal. And I decided to go out before I was heading back to Vancouver. And I walked in this place and I saw this beautiful woman standing at a distance. Very shy I am. So I approached her and I said, I will cancel my flight if you allow me to take you out to lunch. She didn't believe me. I canceled my flight. And she's been my wife now for 29 years. Love you. Stand up, come on. But I truly believe that the individual eyes in your life can make the we great. And I remember, like my mom said, I remember a lot. And in 1974, when I won the Armour Spencer Award, I was excited about that. But the only thing missing was family. I had a friend that was there, my teammate, Sam Germany. Sam, can you stand up? See, Sam and I went against that award. And by the grace of God, I won that award. But I felt lonely, so I took that dust collector and I left. Now, I left Syracuse in 1974, but I flew back from Nashville less than 24 hours ago. On that flight, thinking about that journey from 1974 to now. Because in life, enjoy the moments, because they do become memories real quick. And however, the moment of 1974 is the here and now, because look at the room. I feel so blessed to be among you. And it's truly humbling, because I believe humility precedes honor. And there's some gentlemen in the room tonight, my coach, Manny Breland. I'll never forget, I used to say, Coach, why you made me a captain as a sophomore? And we were heading up to play Nottingham. And he turned around and looked at me and said, son, you're 16 years old, living the life of a 40-year-old man. I scored 30 that night, and I was blessed. There's John Smith, my football coach, who taught me how to hold for extra points. And as you see, John, it did pay off. There's a good friend of mine that traveled from Western Mass, and if anybody knows Colgate football, his name is Kenny Gamble. And Kenny Gamble was the first Walter Payton Award winner in college, and he's inducted to the College Hall of Fame. Can you stand up, Kenny? Kenny Gamble. But I also want to acknowledge 2 to 3 mentors for me growing up in Syracuse. Joe Reddick, Dennis Duval, Roy Neal. They had a profound effect on me. They challenged me, and I thank you for that. But the one person I want to thank most of all is my 5th grade roommate, classmate, I should say. He was blind. See, back then I didn't talk, so they thought something was wrong. And we used to sit in that room 30 minutes a day. at F. Word Clary. And one day he decided to say to me, taught me a little Braille, and he decided to say to me, Billy, you might as well talk. I can't see you. And along the way in my life, I've been blessed. See, I grew up about 2 blocks from here to the east, and I lived alone 2 blocks from here on the west. My love of art started in Weiser Court. This summer, I traveled to Barcelona, Seville, and Madrid to lecture on Francis Goya's lithographs. So a little kid from Weiser Court to Spain, not bad, huh? And so I'm blessed and I'm grateful. You know, because I truly believe not everything in life you face you can change. However, until you face it, it won't change. You don't stand a chance. And also I want to mention something that's very special to me. The president of this Hall of Fame, I coached his daughter at Amherst College. Go figure. Life's blessing, right? Mom, you're right. And I can go on, and I'm looking out here. I went over my time, but I want to thank the inductees to my right and to my left. And again, the individual eyes truly do make the we great. Thank you.
Thank you, Billy. Our next inductee, Buddy Wiklinski.
For more than 40 years, John Buddy Wiklinski has been a significant figure at Christian Brothers Academy. As a senior, he played point guard for CBA's first Section 3 champions and was the All-Central New York shortstop for the Brothers' unbeaten league titleists. Now he's preparing for a 33rd season as basketball coach at his scholastic alma mater.
I was a guard and we were always competing in practice, and he would flop like all over the place. Wherever you touched him, the guy would fall down. Velasco loved it.
He claims to be the national record for charges taken as a player. Something about 150 charges in one single season.
He took charges for Dick Doc Sowers at University of Albany, where the 1979 grad was the team's most improved player as a junior. CBA's gymnasium has been his primary workplace since 1980. It's on the court, bearing his name since 2008, that he's best known as a teacher of basketball, developer of student athletes, and winner of more than 470 games.
I first met Coach Wiklinski at the Golden Valley basketball camp when I was an 8th grader. You know, my impressions of him at first were, wow, he's a competitor. You know, he's intense, and he's a guy that I'd like to play for.
Head coach since 1984, Buddy's teams have won 9 league championships, been in 13 sectional finals, winning 8 in 4 classes, and been to 3 state Final Fours. His 1996-97 team captured the state Class C title. Despite being moved up to Class B, A, and AA in recent years, Buddy's teams remain successful. And since 1989, while doing double duty as athletic director, 10 teams and several individuals have won state championships.
He's taken CBA from a time when we were all male, only male sports teams, to now transition to one of the finest girls programs in the area. We have 2 turf fields, we have a brand new baseball field, much of which he's the one behind the scenes pushing all this stuff.
Buddy has won Coach of the Year honors in Section 3 4 times, including 2015 and 16, twice for Central New York, and in 1997 for New York State. Inducted into CBA's Hall of Fame in 2004, Buddy last year became a New York State Basketball Hall of Famer. Leone, who's been at his side on the CBA bench since 1990, says the big moments are when the alums return.
10 years later, 20 years later, 30 years later, and it's, Coach, we had a great time, Coach. And they tell all the other stories, not even the basketball stories.
Haas had a tale to tell.
My very first career game coaching at CNS, Coach Wiklinski was there scouting, and we ended up, losing by 20 points. And there's about a minute left in the game, and he came down, and before he left, he got my attention, and he told me that things are going to be okay. It's early on in your career, hang in there. I think one of the special things that Coach Wiklinski has taught me is just how to run a successful program.
Loyalty is a big thing with Buddy. Loyalty to a fault on one occasion, perhaps.
Eddie, did you know that O'Donnell Foyle, he said, do you know that he wanted to come to CBA? And he said, well, he wanted to come up, and his guardians called, and he said that they were a little bit concerned that there would be a lot of hoopla if he came to CBA and all that. And Buddy said, well, you know what, you're probably right, because there probably would be a lot. And he said, you're probably better off staying down at Hamilton. And I was like, Buddy, you had a chance to get a Donald Foyle, and you didn't. He said, you know what, he would have taken J.P. Pallone's spot. J.P. Pallone had played with us for 4 years. He had been in the program. Then if I remember correctly, J.P. Pallone went out and broke his leg in football, but that's besides the point.
Buddy was surely guilty of bad judgment while playing a game during the winter weekend a few years ago.
Mackie McPherson, he played for SU as a center. He turns and he looks at the basket, he puts his head down, and he goes. And I'm watching, and I'm going, he ain't gonna do this. Sure enough, he takes on Mackie, and that wasn't a flop, that was a massacre. And that's the first time and only time I've seen an 18-year-old senior football center maul a 54-year-old athletic director.
Now, with no place to flop, Buddy Wiklinski becomes a member of the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame, class of 2016.
Ladies and gentlemen, Buddy Wiklinski.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank John and Matt and Eddie for your kind words that you said up there in the thing. I would like to thank the selection committee, especially Rob Battaglia, for considering me to be worthy to share the stage with such an accomplished group of inductees. I'm truly honored to have been included in such a prestigious class. And thank you to the banquet committee, Bill Motto especially, for all the work that you did to make this such a tremendous evening for all of us. It's a very special evening. The magnitude of this honor just started to set in over the last few days. And looking at the current members of this Hall of Fame, and actually after seeing all these videos so far, I'm really trying to figure out what I did that would allow me to be here with them. By any standard of measurement, my athletic career was anything but Hall of Fame-ish. I was a role player on some great teams. I grew up on Tip Hill, right across from Coach Hayes' St. Pat's. Although, for those of you that know the area, since I had a ski at the end of my name, I had to go to the Polish school down at Sacred Heart and couldn't go there. But growing up, I remember we spent hundreds of hours just playing ball, and with many of you that are here in the room. It didn't matter what kind of a ball back then, whether it was basketball, baseball, wiffle ball. Sometimes we even made up our own games, and we made up our own rules. I spent countless hours at Burnett Park, first playing games, and then later while working for Parks and Rec, organizing and directing them, which was a great training ground for what I do today. However, I was always passionate about the game of basketball. And since I loved working with young people, and at an early age realized that the NBA wasn't a career option, it seemed natural for me to get into coaching. And I had some great role models. My dad coached youth and semi-pro ball. I was fortunate to have played for great coaches through my years, including Bob Velasco in high school and Doc Sowers at Albany. In fact, much of what we do today at CBA goes back to my high school and college days. In my early coaching days, I remember all the veteran coaches would gather at Twin Trees on Friday night after games. Why do you say used to? I guess they still do. But I remember sitting there just like a sponge, trying to soak in all the things that they would say, anything. It was a fraternity that I was fortunate and honored to be accepted into. But as a coach and administrator, any success that's attributed to me is actually through the result of efforts and talents and the sacrifices of a great many people. And though they never ask or seek to be noticed, I'd like to recognize and thank them for their help. First and foremost, I'd like to thank my family, especially my wife Patty and daughter Alyssa, for their support and encouragement. Without their love, understanding, and sacrifices, I wouldn't be here today. Right from the beginning. Right from the beginning, our relationship actually revolved around basketball. Our first date was after a game. I was a CBA assistant coach. Patty was the scorekeeper at West Jenny. And in fact, our daughter Alyssa was born 22 years ago on the first day of our Christmas tournament. And she was kind enough to be born at 1:26 in the morning, so I wouldn't even have to miss that evening's game. And quite honestly, if it wasn't for Patty, I might not even have made it out of my second year of coaching. In my second year of coaching, CBA was in the process of hiring a new athletic director. So on the day of our Ludden game, halfway through the year, Doug, it was very kind of you, he announced on his newscast that Roy Danforth was coming to CBA to interview for the AD and head basketball coaching position. Kind of shocking, considering I didn't realize that my job was up for grabs. But now you have to be realistic. My first year, we were 4-16, and at the time that we were there, we were under 500. So there certainly wasn't going to be any groundswell of support coming up. So the only person I had to help me through it was Patty. And Patty was teaching there at the time. And so we went in, and the principal was Brother Thomas, and I remember going in to see him. It was his first year. He really wasn't big into sports. In fact, in the meeting that we had, he continually confused the sport I coached, saying football and basketball and using them interchangeably. So I really didn't say much. Patty did most of the talking. But the result was good. The next day I got a written note from Brother Thomas guaranteeing my position of head football coach for the following year. Now that's a true story. I still have the note. And you know what? I never asked him if he did that as a joke or if he really just had no idea what I was doing. So I guess I didn't want to know the answer, so it wasn't worth answering the question. And through the years, Patty's been our cheerleading coach, my scorekeeper, advisor, colleague, and most of all, my best friend. Alyssa, you're the greatest thing to happen to your mother and me, and you're truly the most important part of our lives. I love you both very much, and it's fitting that they share this honor with me tonight. Since I started at CBA as a student in 1971, the brothers have had a profound impact on my life. The values they instilled have helped mold me into the person that I am today. Now, I never imagined when I was standing outside of Coleman's, waiting for the Central bus to take me to CBA, token in one hand, CBA book bag in another, looking dapper in my sport coat and tie, that 45 years later, I'd still be going to the same place every morning. But I tell you what, you've talked about loyalty. That's loyalty. When I was first hired as a coach, then a teacher, finally it was a dream come true. I joined a caring faculty and a staff that works hard each day to make a positive impact on the lives of our students. And I'm proud to say that the CBA students today are being taught the same values that I was decades ago. And it's the discipline and work ethic that our students learn in the classroom that helps lead to the success that our athletic program has enjoyed for so many years. In order for a person in my position to have any success, you also need the support of an institution. We've been fortunate over the years to be supported by all factions of the CBA community, the administration, the alumni, the parents. As I look out here tonight, I'm humbled by the number of former schoolmates, teammates, colleagues, and parents who are in the audience. It's their support and trust that makes CBA a fertile environment for success, and I can't thank you all enough. It's said that if you surround yourself with good people, great things will happen. And the fact that I'm here today confirms that statement. I'd like to thank all of the coaches that I've worked with over the years and learned so much from. Your support and cooperation has made my job an easy one. I've also been blessed with having loyal coaches in our basketball program that deserve much of the credit for our success. In particular, Eddie Leone, who's been with us for over 25 years. You know, Eddie makes it fun to go to practice every day. Eddie. He does so much behind the scenes work with our players, and much to my chagrin, he's always willing to give suggestions about plays to call that I have to turn down. But Eddie, you'll never know how much I appreciate your help and your friendship. But as I stand here, I know that one of the main reasons that I'm here today is because of the on-court success of our program. And I'd like to thank all the young men that I've had the honor of coaching over the years. It's very satisfying to watch them grow during their time at CBA and then to see them develop when they come back as successful adults. We never really talk much about winning or losing. Rather, we teach our players to be good teammates, willing to sacrifice individual glory for the good of the team. We want our players to understand that the relationships that are formed with their teammates and classmates are more important than winning championships. But what we see as important can only come to fruition if your players are willing to buy into it. And for over 30 years, I'm proud to say that they have. Without their efforts, this day would not have been possible. And I'd like to ask, can we please have all of our players, former and current, and our assistant coaches, please just stand for a second and be recognized. So I really appreciate all of you. Get up, Drescher. And I'd be remiss also if I didn't acknowledge their parents and families. The support that I've received from them throughout the years has helped make my job a very rewarding one. In closing, I feel that I'm one of the luckiest people in the world. I've had a great support system in my family, my friends, and my position at CBA offers me one of the most rewarding careers that a person could ever have. And while I understand that I'm receiving this honor as a representative of many people, I'm very proud and grateful to join this elite group as a member of the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame.
Congratulations, Coach. And the 30th Annual Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremonies will continue on Time Warner Cable Sports Channel. Welcome back as Blue Rock Energy presents the 2016 Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony on Time Warner Cable Sports Channel. Our 7th inductee, Matt Palem.
3 generations of Palems have been associated in one way or another with Syracuse University. The current edition, about to become a Hall of Famer, has been known to get overly excited. As a player, he might yell at an official. As a referee, he's been known to bark at a coach. But he was a championship goalie and is at the top of the heap among college lacrosse referees.
Well, when I first met Matt, he had diapers on. His grandmother was Ben Schwartzwalder's secretary, so I knew her very well. I knew Dad. He played football for Ben. And then along came Matt.
I've known Matty since he was a little boy. And he one of my first recruits when I started coaching college lacrosse.
He came to a camp that I was conducting, the All-American Lacrosse Camp, and it was held at Lemoyne College at the time. He took a hard shot on the wrist and ended up fracturing his wrist on Monday. So we took him to the hospital, got the whole thing casted, talked to Peter. Peter said, "Why, of course it would hurt, Matt." And then Matty said, "Well, you're going to come up and pick me up?" And he says, "Matty, your wrist is a long way from your heart. We'll see you on Friday."
As a native Syracusan, Matt played for his dad at JD in West Genesee. He lettered in football and lacrosse, was a 1986 All-American netminder and state champion at JD. As a starter in goal for SU's legendary slugger Simmons, Matt was 40-2. NCAA tournament MVP in '88, his 21 title game saves against Cornell capped the first undefeated season in 31 years for the Cuse. That was also the first of SU's 3 consecutive national championships. What set Matt apart from other goalies?
Very rarely find goalies that are as athletic as Matt was. And a lot of times the goalie can get stuck out of the cage and get caught with the ball, and standing in the clear, with it and passing the ball and running out with the ball, great understanding, and a very good communicator with their defense.
A lot of goalies are goalies because they can't run or they're not elusive. He was quick out of the cage.
His senior year, Matt was an All-American on the Gate Brothers-led team, arguably the best in college lacrosse history. His 146 career saves in the NCAAs set a record at the time. And in 4 seasons on the Hill, he stopped 537 shots.
Yeah, he had a good supporting cast at the other end of the field, but Matt had to support that defense and make those critical saves.
His most memorable stop?
I vividly remember it. We were playing a little school called Johns Hopkins from Baltimore for the national title in 1989. We were up by 1 goal after coming from behind. The timing clock was on the field. The seconds were running down. Hopkins had the ball. So I know where they're going to shoot off your weak side after a pass from behind the goal. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened, and he was there. He was there ahead of the ball, so the play worked perfectly for Hopkins. The thing is, Matt outsmarted him. He was there and waiting for it. He came up with a one-on-one save. Ball went out of bounds and the clock ran down.
Matt paid his dues, transitioning from stick in hand to whistle in mouth, officiating Empire State games, Section 3, and state scholastic title games. Collegiately, he refereed the last 13 lacrosse Final Fours, 15 in all, and in 2006 represented the USA as an official at the World Championships. During summers, he officiates Major League Lacrosse.
I haven't talked to a coach in the country that wouldn't want him on their game.
And he not only thinks about the rules of the game, but he also thinks a lot about the mechanics of how we officiate, how the dive is managed. That was Matty Palem's whole concept.
He's done some of the best John Desko imitations that I've ever heard.
Matt is also climbing the ladder as a college basketball official. In 2010, he worked the Division III Men's Final Four, as well as the Division I Men's Lacrosse title game, one of 4 he's reffed, including this year. Matt also holds down another job, Director of Donor Relations in SU's athletic department. He is a rarity in athletics. Star player becomes top-notch official. Reason enough why Matt Palem is a member of the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame, class of 2016.
Ladies and gentlemen, Matt Palem.
I'm scrambling a little bit. Munzie took my story. I'd like to close with a quick story about Walt Munzie. Yeah, so that one's out. I got 3 middle school kids at my parents' table that are about ready to go play in traffic on State Street, so they'll be happy that part's gone. First and foremost, congratulations to my fellow inductees. I'm humbled to be included in this type of company. And a special shout out to my fellow JD Red Ram Susie, who undoubtedly has the best smile in all of golf. Look at it. I have many people to thank, starting with the best family a person could ask for. They're all here tonight. Special thank you to my son Jackson and his mother Lindsay, and also my mother Connie. Reffing 2 college sports in addition to working full-time is very time-consuming, and Jackson, Lindsay, and my mom are the 3 people who sacrifice the most for me. Thank you all very much. I need to single out my dad for a minute. He's the one who was the first to light my sports fire. Dad was the football coach at West Jenny from the time I was born and throughout my childhood. And going to work as a little kid with my dad was my foundation in sports. That's where I learned about freshly mowed and painted fields, and bus rides and locker rooms, and every kid's favorite place, the equipment room. Thanks, Dad. Lacrosse has given me an incredible 2-part journey, first as a player and now as a ref, and both phases have been extremely rewarding in many ways. As a player, it started in 6th grade at JD Middle School. My coach was this guy. He was kind of a hippie-looking guy with long hair and an earring. He was a grad student from SU named Roy Simmons III. From there, I need to thank my three go-to coaches from my next 6 years at JD. Grove Havener, who, when I was a 7th grader at JD, we had budget situations and there were no modified sports. And Coach Havener was the freshman coach, and I'd never played on a team yet. Not like today where, you know, my 12-year-olds played in more games than I ever had. But I hadn't been on a team yet, and I'm a 7th grader, and he took me on the freshman team as the backup goalie. And that kind of got the thing going, because my dad was a baseball guy. We played a lot of baseball growing up, and so I don't know if lacrosse would have happened if it wasn't for Coach Havener keeping me as a freshman. But also Bruce Quimby and Jim Pistello. They gave me the tools I would need to pursue my childhood dream of playing lacrosse for Syracuse in the Carrier Dome. Finally, the last coaches I would ever have, and the two best lacrosse coaches in the world, Roy Simmons Jr. and John Desko. Those guys gave me that opportunity to stay home and play on the greatest college teams to ever take the field. I thank Roy and John for that opportunity, and I also thank all of my teammates for the incredible experience that we created together. When I was a 19-year-old sophomore at SU, I had a 73 Dodge Dart that I could barely afford to keep gas in. And I'd call my dad every few days and ask for money to keep that thing on the road. And by about October, Dad was running thin on $20 bills, and he came up with an idea for me. He'd been reffing high school basketball for a few years and thought it might be a good idea for me to join the board. Having never played in an organized basketball game in my life, I took a shot at it and actually fell in love with it. I'm about to start my 30th year as a basketball ref with a lot of my Board 38 buddies right over there. And, Board 38 is where my foundation for officiating was established. I've had incredible mentors along the way. Guys like the late John Sherlock, Tom Sprague, Mike Kitts, Gary Bova, Nibsy Ryan, and Greg Blake. These guys have been tremendous teachers for me. A couple years after I started reffing hoops, Walt Munsey, along with other mentors like Tommy Abbott and Jimmy O'Hara, Steve Miller, Jim Luxinger, Clark Mercer, those guys took me under their wing and showed me how to apply what I'd learned in basketball to lacrosse, a sport that I actually played and understood a little bit. So that was helpful. And again, just a lot of people to thank, a lot of fun along the way. You know, the coaches talk about it's not the X's and O's, it's the Jimmy and Joes, and the refs, we kind of have the same thing. Some of my best friends in the world out there are guys in stripes, so be nice to them. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Matt. Our final inductee for 2016, Bob Hayes.
When you look back on his long career, athlete, coach, cop, caring community volunteer, it's easy to conclude that Bob Hayes was outstanding every step along the way. Scholastically, at St. Patrick's, class of 1955, he earned 8 letters in basketball and baseball. While serving in the Navy aboard the carrier USS Intrepid, he played on the basketball team. As a young Syracuse Police Department patrolman, he began his coaching career at St. Pat's.
I would consider Bob a player's coach. He was tough. Teamwork was a big plus for the teams that Bob coached. When you walked into the practice every day, you checked your ego at the door.
There were many fine parochial league basketball coaches in the 60s and 70s, but Bob was named Coach of the Year in 1969 and 73 at his alma mater, and 1974 at Westside Catholic, a merger of St. Pat's and St. Lucy's. The 1969 St. Pat's team won the school's first regular season title in 33 years. His teams won 3 parochial championships, 2 diocesan Class B titles, and the 1974 Section 3 Class C crown, the highest level ever for a parochial league school.
He was never not prepared for a game.
He knew the X's and O's very, very well. I think his greatest strength was kind of a sixth sense about adolescents and the way they thought. I think he gathered this from his days as a cop walking the street corners, and then as a coach. He understood what they were thinking. It was no surprise when Eddie Irwin put him in the schools.
Son of a former Syracuse police chief, Irwin headed the school resource program and was Bob's supervisor.
Bob was a great cop for us in the Fowler High School. Fowler had a lot of issues that Bob attacked head on. Kids always relate to sports. The kids would come to him. They would open up, they'd talk to him. They would get to trust him.
Bob was also athletic director at St. Pat's, and he coached 1 season at Most Holy Rosary. He also coached St. Pat's Grammar and CYO teams and West End PBA Little League for 25 years. Founder-director of the Rascals youth basketball program, now called the Leprechaun League and directed by 2 ex-Rascals, Bob has been a positive influence on more Tipperary Hill youth than one could ever imagine. Always supported by his late wife Janet and their 4 sons, Bob was more than games won or championship seasons. That is why he received the 1978 Syracuse Optimist Club Award and 99 Blind Men and Criers Lou Andreas Award for community service. Irwin, Sirotnik, and former Syracuse Mayor Tom Young, who played for and coached with Hayes, all have a long history with the Hall of Fame inductee.
He was actually my father's chauffeur.
He married my older sister.
I've known Hazy too long.
And somehow, so many tales told involve Bob's parochial league coaching days.
I later saw him in action when he was coaching St. Pat's. He was up working the referees as much as he possibly could, waving his green towel around.
Once you played for Bob, you were always connected to him and to St. Pat's.
At St. Pat's, very close game, important game. No timeouts left. There's only a minute on the clock. So he put his hands to his mouth and he said to Ziggy Cole, "Ziggy, fall down. Ziggy, fall down." And down went Ziggy. Hasey went over to look after him, gave him the play he needed. The officials realized what he had done. No technical. We went on to win the game. He had a way of working the referees. On Nibsies, on Friday nights, they all came to Nibsies so that Bob Hayes could, hoping that he would single them out for ridicule, because that was the badge of honor. And he knew when he did that he had the edge.
Some stories of a storied coach. Inducted into Section 3's Hall of Fame in 2002, this year, Bob Hayes is a member of the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame, class of 2016.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bob Hayes.
Thank you, Doug. Ray Seals, first, I got to clarify something. Your father was a great basketball player. He's the only guy in this building who's taken more shots than Father Billy Jones. Back in May, I received a call from Coach Jerry Wilcox that I had been voted into the Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame. After I gained my breath, I asked him what I thought was a very easy question. "What for, Jerry?" And he looked at me like I had 2 heads, and he says, "Well, it certainly wasn't for golf." He really knows how to hurt a guy. I would like to thank the Hall of Fame for this great honor. I do think that maybe my great friend Joe LaGuardia may have flown down from heaven to cast the deciding vote. I would also like to congratulate the other members of the class of 16. Their athletic achievements are well broadcasted already. They're great guys. During the course of my life, I have many people that I have to thank. My parents are passed, but my two sisters, Shara and Helen Marie, are here tonight, and my brother, John. They've supported me all my life with everything that I have done, and I'd like to thank them very much. My dad actually played in the Parochial League the first year that the league opened, 1932-33. And I was still coaching in 76, 77, so the Hayes family has spanned the entire distance of the Parochial League. My sons Bob, John, Tom, and Mick, and my grandchildren and daughters-in-law are down here to my right. They've been a star for me for all their lives. Every one of them, they've helped me out. Thank you all. My wife Janet passed away almost 9 years ago. She was the backbone of the family, and she still watches over us today. Along with all her family duties years ago, she worked on every imaginable fundraiser that we had at St. Pat's. And she was just a great lady. And I wouldn't have made it here tonight. I could never have gotten into this tuxedo if it wasn't for the help I had from Kathy Clam. I have to thank the Syracuse Police Department. I know I'm biased, but I think they're the finest police department in the country for its size. All the chiefs that I worked for over the years were very pleased to have one of their officers working with today's youth, and they encouraged me to continue to do that. I do have to say hello to my partner, Ange Natoli, who was in St. Camillus rehabbing a knee, but he'll get to watch this on Wednesday night on TV. But I've been told that when they cut open his old kneecap, that they broke 2 chainsaws to get through that leg of his. The Parochial League was a very exciting basketball league, and I fell in love with it. Back in the late 40s, attending triple headers down at the Jefferson Street Armory, I saw players like Red Zabinski and Ronnie Wilcox and Billy Jenkins. And as I said, I just fell in love with it, and I couldn't wait to get my chance. My chance came from 53 to 55 at St. Pat's. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I played with my teammates at that time were friends for the rest of my life. Players like Billy O'Leary, Donnie Moriarty, Eddie Clam, Fritz Moran, Father John Fetcho, and Bobby Ellis. Just great guys, and we've always enjoyed ourselves when we're together. I started coaching the Parochial League in 1962. The most prominent coaches in the league at that time were Frank Saddle and Bob Velasco and Adam Markowski. Those names get your attention. Well, Bob Hayes going up against those three was like the Christians going in with the Lions. And we had about the same results, too, by the way. Those great coaches were followed by additional great coaches. My good friend Billy Iwanizek, Tommy Godzak, Billy Roach, Jim Cunningham, Tommy Young, Tom Cooney, Dave Rose, Tony DeVivo, and probably others that I'm leaving out. Great coaches and even better gentlemen. I always enjoyed being with them. I did have one habit. I went after every game to Nibsy Ryan's Saloon. I knew that there would be other coaches over there, but there would also be members of IBO Board 38 just looking for an argument, and they got it. The coaches didn't win all the arguments there, but we didn't lose them all either. I knew if I got in trouble with Paparo or Burr or Kitts that I had Coach Mahar, Nibsy Ryan, Butch Driscoll, Dick Wheeler, and Fran DeBabio to back me up. They never really did, but I knew I had them. I am so proud to be here tonight. to be the 4th Pro League coach voted into the Hall of Fame. It's a great honor. It means that all the hard practices and all the work over the summer that my players did has been recognized. And now the teams from St. Pat's and Westside Catholic and Holy Rosary, my CYO and grammar school teams, are all, for the rest of the time, their coach and their teams are going to be mentioned in the Hall of Fame of the city of Syracuse. That's a great honor. I would like to have all the players from St. Pat's, Rosary, Westside Catholic, please stand up. I didn't think those guys made that much money. Really, there's only one player that did not stand. His name is Joe O'Donnell. He played for my grammar school team with my son Mickey and Jeannie Bowden, Robbie Punch, who won the grammar school title. And a few years ago, he contracted ALS. But he thought so much of me and his teammates to make his way down here tonight. If you could give a round of applause, Joe O'Donnell. I'm almost done, bud. I'm almost done. Thank you very much. To all my coaches, players, cheerleaders, and fans, thank you for your efforts, your dedication, your loyalty. I accept this great tribute here tonight on your behalf. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Bob. How about one more gigantic round of applause for all of our honorees in the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame class of 2016. As we mentioned at the beginning of the evening, and I think you'll all agree, tonight, the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame has become even greater. We invite you to visit the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame at Burdick's Drivers Village in North Syracuse. And please also visit our website, syracusehalloffame.com. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your continued support of the Greater Syracuse Sports Hall of Fame and for sharing in our celebration. For everyone at Time Warner Cable Sports Channel, thank you for joining us, and so long for now.
There's a place for all our hopes. It's called the Hall of Fame. The greats of sports are honored here for the way they played the game. As we count their contributions, we feel so very proud.